You know, I think I was born a doctor. Growing up in Damascus as a 6-year-old, I remember playing with my cousins and my siblings and insisting on being the surgeon who was performing the life-saving operations on our Barbies and Cindy's. We moved to the UK when I was a teenager. When it came to applying for university, my teachers tried to dissuade me from applying to medical school. They said my grades weren't good enough and that perhaps I should consider chemistry or biology. I thought that was the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Of course I was going to be a doctor. They'd clearly forgotten I'd only learned English 2 years earlier. I applied and I trained as a doctor, specializing in anesthesia and intensive care, and had planned for a career in global health development in sub-Saharan Africa. But life had other plans for me. I think war is one of these things, it's a bit like cancer. You never think it's gonna happen to you. It's always something that happens to other people, and you only really know how devastating it is when it happens to you or a loved one. Syria for me is the smell of jasmine on my grandmother's balcony. It's walking through the winding streets of Souk Damascus with the smell of spices, eating a delicious falafel sandwich, or frolicking around in the farming lands of my family in the west of the country, surrounded by olive trees and oak trees. But then in 2011, the peaceful protests that were calling for freedom and dignity were met with a bloody crackdown, and the war on civilians that you all know of ensued. And now we have the biggest humanitarian catastrophe of our time. To be honest with you, we thought it was just going to last a few days, maybe a few weeks at best. But 2012 was the worst year for us. That's when over 30 members of my family were killed, and all our farms were napalmed and burnt to the ground. I was living in the UK at the time, working as a doctor, and so I did the only thing I knew I could, and I joined the humanitarian effort, working with various different Syrian-led organizations, and helped to set up 6 hospitals in the north of the country and dozens of clinics across the whole country. That was when I had another rude awakening. I thought that it was the big aid agencies that actually go around and save the world. But though they do good work, the actual reason people survive in crisis is the people themselves. The reason that people survive in crises is because mothers grab the hands of their children and walk them in the dead of night over dead bodies for miles and miles to get them to safety. The reason that people survive is because of people like my colleague, Dr. Amina, who delivers women on her kitchen floor because there are no healthcare facilities left in the area. The reason people survive is because the diaspora of these beleaguered nations turn up in droves. It's the Syrians who help in Syria, it's the Yemenis who are helping in Yemen, it's the Somalis who are helping in Somalia. So researchers at Local to Global did a study and found that in the Syria context, 75% of the humanitarian work is being carried out by Syrian charities. 75%. Now, hands up if you think we're getting 75% of the aid budget. 50%. 40%. 30%? You're either very cynical or very well informed. 0.3% of the aid budget. I'd like to show you a short video of what this gross imbalance looks like in reality and the lives that it's costing. This video is an excerpt from a documentary that we made a couple of years ago called Saving Syria's Children. It was a BBC Panorama documentary that was filmed as I was on one of my medical missions in Syria, working at the time with a Syrian organization I'd helped to set up called Hand in Hand for Syria. During this trip, I was going around assessing the quality of our care and the needs of the local population. And on this day, we witnessed a war crime. An airstrike had taken place, and a school was bombed, and we had a massive influx of severely burnt children coming to our hospital. Now, I warn you, it is a bit of a hard watch, but I hope you'll forgive me because of the important point that I need to make.
A 7-month-old baby boy has been brought in with severe burns. No one's quite sure what's happened. Have you got a cannula? Small cannula for a baby? This is too big. The baby cannula, this is too big. Okay, this baby needs to be picked up. Are you the dad? Are you the father? Okay, you sit down, you hold the baby.
طيب جيب واحدة فentanyl وواحدة morphine.
This is crazy. Half the kit that we need I'm not getting or I don't have access to. Everything's adult size and not pediatric size. Okay, here we have someone else. Okay, oh my God.
يلا يلا يلا. إسعافات ثانية.
Some kind of airstrike seems to have taken place. Most of the casualties are teenagers. They're saying a bomb has landed in their school playground.
There's dozens of people that have just been rushed in, covered in burns and some white powder dust. Their clothes are hanging off them.
It's only 5 days since the chemical attack in Damascus, and everyone's terrified that there's just been another one.
It's just absolute chaos and carnage here. We've had a massive influx of what looked like serious burns. It seems like it must be some sort of chemical weapon. I'm not really sure.
We don't know what we're dealing with.
Rola orders all casualties and anyone who's touched the victims to be doused in water.
Casualties just keep on coming in. The truth is, they can't even barely begin to cope inside here. There are a few beds, which is why people are laid out on the floor. One thing that the camera will not tell you is the smell that's in the air. It's a sickening smell of burning flesh. It's an absolutely horrific scene. Hospital staff are now handing these out because, of course, the fear is they don't know what's happened and they think it may be a chemical attack.
That day is etched on my heart and on my mind and in my soul. There's so many things that were wrong about that. So many questions like, what has that pilot turned off inside of them to look down at a schoolyard full of children and press the destruct button? Like, where are all the world leaders and the United Nations and everyone else who said never again? But the most devastating thing for me that day was that day I had trained all my life for a day like that. That day I had the skills, the ability, and the knowledge to administer life-saving treatment. I should have been able to give those children oxygen, sedation, painkillers. I should have been able to put a breathing tube. I should have been able to put them on a ventilator and send them in a medically escorted ambulance for the 20-mile journey it would take to get them to safety in Turkey. But instead, I had to send them suffocating in excruciating pain in the back of their parents' cars, and 10 of those kids you saw on screen died that day because I, who could have saved their lives, did not have any of the resources and the tools and the equipment that I needed. Now, I'd love to tell you that's just the situation in Syria, but this is a global problem. Across the world, across all of the crises, it is the local humanitarians who shoulder the burden of the aid, but we get 1% to 2% of the aid budget. And this has actually been recognized at the highest levels. So at the first United Nations World Humanitarian Summit 2 years ago, one of the main targets they set was that by 2020, 25% of the aid budget should be going to local aid workers. But unfortunately, there are so few initiatives happening to make that a reality, and as a result, we are woefully off course. Now, I'll admit, that really messed with my head. I was so angry and so furious and thought, surely we can do better. So I went back to the drawing board and scratched my head. I soon realized that this aid system wasn't just broken at that end, it was broken at our end too, because we sit around the world and these crises explode onto our screens and into our lives, and we see the suffering of our fellow human beings, and we want to help. We want to make a difference. We want to contribute. We want to know where our money is going, how much of it is arriving, what good it's doing. But that mechanism isn't there in place. And I think furthermore, because there is such a disconnection between us and these people in crisis, we only see them in the news, we get the misperception that they are just mere victims, sitting there with their hands out, waiting for a handout, and not the courageous change makers that they truly are. And so from this, Can Do was born. We are a not-for-profit social enterprise determined to provide healthcare to everyone in a war zone by enabling the very people who can save lives, the local doctors, nurses, and aid workers. So we've set up the first humanitarian crowdfunding platform so we can bring their work out of the shadows and into the light and into a global platform and connect them with you around the world, so that they can tell you what urgent healthcare needs they have, and you can support the particular country, the particular organization, and the specific project that you want, knowing that 100% of your money is going directly to that project. Now, I think that there are so many reasons why we should support local humanitarians, but I'd like to talk about 4 more reasons. Not only are they the first and the ongoing responders, they dare to work where others cannot or will not. So right now, across Syria, there are nearly 1 million people who are being besieged, slowly starved to death in a medieval siege tactic, no aid allowed to enter. There are no big aid agencies working there, but the Syrian charities are. And just last month, one of our partners in SAN ran a successful crowdfunding campaign to train 14 mental health care workers to provide severely traumatized women with the psychological support and the trauma recovery techniques they need so that they can redevelop their resilience and continue. They are reaching the most marginalized and the most vulnerable of communities. The second reason is grit, the resilience. We do not give up. Last November, one of our partners, the Independent Doctors Association, had their children's hospital in Aleppo bombed. Imagine it was the 6th time that their children's hospital had been bombed. In fact, Physicians for Human Rights, an American not-for-profit, has documented over 800 attacks on hospitals across Syria since the beginning of the war, 90% of it by the Syrian regime, the other 10% by other armed actors. And they say this has been used as a premeditated, systematic targeting of healthcare, using its destruction as a weapon of war. But they don't just bomb hospitals, they also kill medics. Hundreds of my colleagues have been killed, 40% of them under torture. One of my colleagues, Dr. Ahmed, we had been working together. I was in the UK, he was in Damascus. We'd done just a few projects together. I was trying to support his medical aid delivery. And one day he was arrested by the regime and he was severely tortured for 9 months and miraculously was one of the few who left. And he said for 3 months of his torture, it was about me. I had never met him. Our crime was upholding our Hippocratic oath and daring to treat patients wherever they are across the country. But we don't give up. And so we worked with the Independent Doctors Association and ran a crowdfunding campaign for them last December after their children's hospital was bombed, because we wanted to rebuild hospitals. We will not be stopped from doing our life-saving work. And so we ran a campaign called the People's Convoy so that we can rebuild a hospital, and we did it. 5,000 people from over 10 countries raised an amazing $250,000 in just 2 weeks. And we then drove the hospital equipment all the way from London in convoy to the Syria border to deliver it to our partners as a loud and clear message that we will not be stopped from doing our life-saving work and taking hundreds of messages of solidarity from people from around the world to the local aid workers so that they know they are heard and they are seen. And 3 months later, Hope Hospital for Children opened its doors. It's already treated 12,000 children in that 3 months. The third reason is the creativity, the resourcefulness. One of our partners are called Giras. They work in besieged Damascus. Right now, nearly 500,000 people are literally being slowly starved to death. I was sent the most devastating photo yesterday that I won't show you of a 15-year-old who hung himself because he couldn't bear to be so starving anymore. They can eat rice, bulgur. They've occasionally got access to flour so they can bake bread. But because the fields have been destroyed, there's no fresh food produce. And so they partnered up with a scientific center in Damascus to try and germinate mushrooms. In Syria, we call mushrooms the meat of the poor. It's high in protein, in vitamin, and in fiber. And after nearly 2 years of trials and the scientific center burning down, rebuilding it, they continued their research. And only last month did they run a successful crowdfunding campaign to distribute these mushroom growing kits to 180 families in besieged Damascus so that they can feed themselves with dignity in a sustainable manner. And lastly, support local humanitarians because our problems are your problems. The Geneva Conventions for Protection of Medical Neutrality are there for our collective protection. Mr. Biden yesterday said that silence is complicity. If we okay hospitals to be bombed anywhere, does that mean it's okay that your hospitals now become legitimate terrorist or military targets? Supposedly, the Ebola crisis has taught us that when the healthcare systems of countries are destroyed and not rebuilt, those countries become hotbed exporters of disease. And I can tell you, our system has been decimated. And we are already exporting polio and measles. And we are never going to solve the refugee crisis until we provide those basic healthcare services that people need in their own country. And so, ladies and gentlemen, war can bring out the absolute worst of humanity, but I have seen it bring out the absolute best. Where you see death, destruction, and devastation, I see hope, I see optimism, I see opportunities and possibilities. We can make a tangible difference to the lives of people who are devastated by war by supporting the very people who not only will save lives now, but they're the ones who will rebuild. They're the ones who will resuture the bleeding wounds of these fractured societies to help them heal for a thriving and peaceful future. But for that, we need a paradigm shift. We need a new humanitarian vision, one where we are all humanitarians, we the people. One where you, the engaged global citizens of the world, are the global humanitarians who are standing directly with and shoulder to shoulder with local humanitarians. My friends at Google, I heard yesterday that you've already helped in my country. Can you help me to protect medical workers and hospitals in war zones? How can we use AI or driverless cars or drones to deliver aid in the most dangerous places to people who cannot be reached? Everyone in this room can make a difference. So join me. We can make this happen. Thank you. Thank you.